Can the honorable member please move that we adopt the agenda as circulated?
We don't have the agenda yet.
You don't?
No.
So Mr. Mendes?
Withdrawn to circulated again. I don't know why.
The agenda.
It's not circulated?
It's not circulated. That's why it was circulated, but they withdrawn it.
They did not?
It was circulated and they withdrawn it.
Why? Oh, I see. I have mine. Mine was not withdrawn.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, let's give our time because to circulate it. So we'll give you a few minutes just to have a look at it and then we'll move it to be adopted. Sorry about that. Monday morning is usually very tight. How was the talk?
It was very
Hectic, huh?
Oh, yes.
It was very fulfilling.
It's good, we have a test.
What it wasn't really hard. Mansakonko was very
Can you give some to Mr. Mendes so that we can help you? So that you move fast?
They asked, where's the agenda?
Plan is internal. Thank you. Let's move. Please, are we together, Suleiman?
Yes.
Please. Can we call the meeting to order? Are we together? Have we gone through the agenda? Yes. Honorable Tukara, Kantora?
Yes.
Are we together? Yes, please. All other honorable members? Can someone move then that we adopt the agenda as circulated? Yes, Honorable Seka. Thank you, Seconder.
Seconded.
Thank you very much. It has been moved and seconded that the agenda circulated adopted and it is hereby adopted. Thank you very much. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, political party leaders here in present and members of political parties here in present, members of the press, civil society, and of course our employees who are here with us. we commence business proper, may we introduce ourselves so that we know each other before we actually do the contribution proper. May I committee members, honorable members, to introduce themselves first. Thank you. Honorable members, can we do the introduction to start?
Good morning. My name is Honorable Fatima Tenjai. I'm a member of the Human Rights Committee, but I also stand here to represent the people as the interim council leader.
Good morning. My name is Yakumba Jelte. I'm the Vice Chair of the Local Government Lands IEC Committee and also a member of the Human Rights Committee. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Honorable Alaji Hitso, member of the Local Government Committee and IEC, also representing the Jimara constituency.
Good morning, Bileji Tunkara, member of the Regional Government Committee, representing Control constituency.
Good morning. My name is Honorable Salih Bijao, member for Johan, and a member of the Regional Government Committee.
Good morning. Alhaji Estavo, member of the Kavan North, Human Rights and Concern Matters member.
Good morning, Honorable Madi Sise, member of Human Rights Committee.
Good morning, Honorable Swai Victoria, Vice Chair, Human Rights Committee.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Honorable Bankari Kamara, National Assembly Member Central, and member of the Human Rights and Constitutional Matters Committee.
Good morning. I'm Honorable Kepa Jallo, member for Jarra Central constituency, and a member of the Regional Governance Committee, IEC Ombudsman.
Good morning. Leah Sinseka, nominated member and member of Human Rights and Constitutional Matters.
Yes, I am Honorable Fodi Enem, member for Fatumana constituency and a member of the Select Committee in the Regional Government Land Ombudsman and IEC.
Good morning. I am Honorable Sunkari Baji, member for Regional Government Land, IEC and Ombudsman.
Good morning. I'm Honorable Momuru Kamara, member for Fondi Bitankaranan, and member of the Human Rights and Constitutional Matters Committee.
Good morning. I am Honorable Omar Sise, Nam Nyamina East, a member of the Human Rights and Constitutional Matters Committee.
Good morning, Honorable Sin Dawa, Nam Wasan constituency, member of the Local Government Lands of the Neighborhood.
Good morning. I'm Honorable David Jesane, National Assembly member for Brigama South, a member of Regional Governance Land, IEC and Ombudsman.
Musa Amul Nyasi, Chairperson of the Committee on Regional Government, Ombudsman and the IEC, and the co-chair of the Joint Committee.
Thank you very much. My name is Mariam Belton, Chairperson of the Constitutional Matters Committee and also co-chair of the Joint Committee. We have our staff with us, Mr. Jarra, it's led by Mr. Jarra. Then can we have the introduction of representatives of political parties? Yes. What about our Yes, in fact, I did see it. Yeah. I said our technical team. Well, in the person of Mr. Sir, we have others. You may introduce yourselves then. Yes.
I am Modu Tafaka, Subject Matter Specialist for Regional Government Select Committee, Ombudsman and IEC.
They are the subject matter specialists.
Good morning. My name is Modu Sar, subject matter specialist for Regional Governance, Ombudsman and IEC matters.
Thank you. we now have the introduction of the political parties, representatives. Thank you.
My name is Amami Funding Tal. I am the spokesperson for the United Democratic Party.
Ramadan Mubarak, all of you have not seen these faces for quite a long time since Ramadan. So, say Ramadan Mubarak. My name is Hussein Dabo, leader of the United Democratic Party and the president in waiting.
Good morning. My name is Brahman Jaite. I'm representing Gambia for All Political Party, GFA, and I'm the head of the political bureau.
Good morning, everyone. I am Amadou Ka, the deputy party leader 2 of the Gambia Democratic Congress. Thank you all.
My name is Joseph Da Costa. I'm from EPDP, Admin Secretary 2.
My name is Abdurrahman Jallo, and I am the Admin Secretary 1 of Gambia Party for Democracy and Progress.
My name is Sam Saab, Information Secretary, PDOIS.
Ramadan Mubarak Abtutu Badai. I'm Saban Musa Hussein Ali Bachili, the party leader of Gambia Action Party, the next government.
Good morning, my name is Lamin Vidiba, Minister of Environment and Climate Change, party leader of the National Convention Party.
Good morning, I am Sidi Jai, Deputy Spokesperson, National People's Party.
Good morning, my name is Mohammed Kandoro Yafa, Administrative Secretary, Gambia Action Party.
Good morning, I'm Rukamara is my name, National Assembly member, and also representing my party, NRP.
Good morning, my name is Modi Jain, GDC Electoral Committee.
Good morning, my name is Mohamed Dumbuk, Admin Secretary, Gambia Democratic Congress.
Pardon?
Yes.
Non-members of the committee. No, they can observe. They can observe. No, they can observe. They can, because the session is open. The session is open. It's not a closed session, so they can observe. Please, can we have one meeting? Please, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm being informed that there are 17 officially registered parties, but we have 10 here. I think the last one, 18. Yeah, as of last week, or as of today, 18. But we have representatives of only 10. So I don't know the reason why the other 8 are not here. I can understand the latest one, probably the committee wasn't aware and they couldn't have been sent invitations. But my learned...
The latest one. By the time they got registered, the letters are already dispatched.
Yes, I am. Yes, I understand. By the time the letters were... The letters had already been dispatched. Honorable Sabasanga, please, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm Honorable Smakure, member of Sabasanga.
Yes, thank you. I'll help you. Thank you very much. Once again, good morning, everybody, and we welcome. Yes.
Well,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you can perform a double role. Yes?
I was also going to say, because representing my party, I also did not receive any.
You are representing your party.
What I'm saying is that I did not receive any, so I would like to know how and which part was informed.
Well, is the question directed to the chair or to the secretary? To the, no, I think that is not correct. That is not right. You can raise your concerns, and the chair can take it up with the secretariat. But I am sure you don't expect the chair to be following letters to parties. No, but you raise your concern very well, and it will be taken up. Yeah, but definitely the chair cannot take responsibility. Thank you. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I vividly remember on Thursday, together with Landy, we were trying to confirm the number of parties that exist. We had 16. I even gave Landy the contact number of an individual at IEC, who he should call to give him this message. So if Honorable Kamara is saying that the APRC is not receiving their communication, that's quite surprising. But what we can
do is... Please, can we have one meeting, please, and let us have some decorum and order, please. Now, let me allow the co-chair. He has some explanation vis-a-vis the local government aspect of the bill.
Thank you very much. What I want to say here is, it was on Thursday while we were in the field, Wednesday rather, not even Thursday. While we were in the field, I was called by the director of committee, Landing Joe, and at the time, he had 16 parties on his list. As he went through the list, I was able to recollect the last party that he missed, and I gave him the name of that party. And as of that Wednesday, he gave me the assurance that all the letters were to be dispatched. So if there is a party claiming that they have not received their letter inviting them to this meeting, which is a party I belong to, that is strange. But all we can do is we will continue with the business, notwithstanding we'll find out from Landing as to who was responsible for the dispatch of the letters, and that individual can confirm that whether the said parties have actually received their letters or not. But this was last week Wednesday. That's all I want to share. And then again at the time, we had only 17 registered parties. That is why when the co-chair was making the announcement, she made mention that we have 10 parties out of 17, because the 18th party was not registered at the time, and they are not invited to this particular forum. So I want members to understand it that way.
In fact, let's not prolong this dialogue.
There's another hand from the same party who claimed not to have received. Let's hear what he has.
APRC?
I want to make a general observation. Because we were informed that out of the 16 or 17, 10 parties are present. In the event the national assembly faulted in the delivery of the letters, that would not be the fault of the those parties absent. Would they be given an opportunity also to put that input?
Thank you. Yeah. Or we can even sort it out and come to a compromise. We are continuing with the engagement. And the parties that have been omitted will be written to, and they will join either the Banjul or Serekunda, KMC or West Coast region meetings. And then their concerns will be heard as a political party. So I think we can move forward and continue. Thank you very much. Now we've done the introduction. Now, I just want to give a summary of the mandate of this joint committee. And first of all, to say that the Elections Bill 2020 was referred to this joint committee by the plenary, where it was actually tabled during the last session, and that is the first ordinary session in the 2021 legislative year. Now, the mandate of the committee is to scrutinize, consider, and prepare a report on the bill for presentation to the plenary as required under our standing orders. I don't want to bore everybody with the detailed provisions of the standing orders, but we are all familiar with them. And in the venture that is in the process of the consultation, the Joint Committee is expected to make reference to the Parent Act, the 1997 Constitution, and also to invite relevant witnesses and stakeholders and subject matter specialists to guide us through the process. Now, highlighting on the role of political parties in relation to to the bill. From inception, the activities of the committee has invited, actually, the Ministry of Justice was the mover of the motion, that is the bill, Ministry of Local Government and Lands, Foreign Affairs, Finance. In addition, the committee has also received the IEC, that is the Independent Electoral Commission, to give an overview of the bill. And all of them will be serving as observers throughout the process. So please, Secretariat, let us ensure that the Ministry of Justice, it was clearly stated, and the IEC will accompany us throughout the sessions. So I don't know why they are not here, because I'm sure the political parties will have their views, and especially justice when it comes to amendments will need to capture the views. I'm surprised that they are not here. Now the committee, of course, knows very well, and we all know that political parties are a major stakeholder. We finally prepare our report for it to be tabled before the plenary. And that is to say that your opinions, concerns, and contributions will significantly assist this joint committee to prepare a very comprehensive report for presentation to the plenary. Now, you are not only invited to react to the questions and concerns of honor, and on that note, I will say thank you for that. And honorable members who were at the tour last week, divided into two groups. One is South Bank, and the other one went to the North Bank, and I think they went up to URR, you know, and now they had priority questions during the course of the outreach. They had developed a questionnaire for which they have agreed that they will be put across so that they will seek your advice and wisdom on the areas that were covered during the tour. And the questionnaires were put to members of the public during their meetings at North Bank, LRR, URR, and the CRR, both North and South. And as I said again, your advice will be greatly valued, recorded, and taken into consideration. Now the questionnaire, the questionnaire was based on one, whether the IEC should be given the right at all to receive grants or donation, taking into consideration their mandate. I have to read it out because I cannot really detail it offhand. Then there was the issue of attestations. Should attestations be allowed as part of the following documents: birth certificate, national ID card, and passport for issuance of a voter's card? And if yes, who should be the issuing authority, the alcalo, sefolo, or 5 elderly in the community, or both? These were questions that were put across to the members of the community, and they had their reaction, but I think it is only reasonable also to share that with members of the political parties so that we can also have their views on that. Then another issue was whether Gambians in the diaspora should be given the opportunity to take part in the upcoming elections. This is an issue that I think needs really to be thoroughly looked into so that a final decision can be taken. That's why I am surprised that the IEC representative is not here. They should have been here to hear the concerns of political parties on this issue. And whether that is the election register, the final compilation of all voters be made available at the request of any party in hard and soft copies without cost. Whether the sum of $500,000 is paid as deposit by a presidential candidate is excessive or sufficient, taking into consideration that the person will lose the deposit if he or she doesn't attain 40% of the total votes cast. And then the other issue was whether death of an independent candidate should be a ground for postponement of an election or not, while same does not apply to political parties' candidates. Another issue was whether the voting period for presidential elections be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And should the transfer of place of registration be allowed in our electoral processes? And should there be any fee chargeable for such application? These were some of the areas that were put forward, or the concerns that were put forward when the committee divided and went on their outreach last week. Now, I cannot tell you the feedback we received from the communities, but it is on the records and we will reflect on it. But I thought we should just share that with you so that you'll have an idea of what transpired when they went around the country. And then on that note, then, as I said, it was just to highlight the role of the political parties in relation to the elections bill, and we have put across, indicated to you all the priority questions to political parties for their reaction and comments, observations, as was based on the questionnaire that the committee posed when they went on their tour. Now, may I, at this point, probably just before we proceed to the next item, allow the co-chair, maybe he has a few remarks, a statement to make before we proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and the co-chair of the Joint Committee. Like she rightly alluded to, that was the approach we used when we were in the field, but it was not only limited to that. As you may be aware, the elections bill is a public document. We allowed people in the communities or in the respective public hearings, apart from the few questions that we ask, to also give us their general thinking as far as the bill is concerned. Issues that they felt were not made mention or were not captured as per the questionnaires that we developed, and they feel it would be of use having it on board the elections bill, they were given the opportunity to air it out. So equally, that is what is expected from the political parties that are before us here. That is not only limited to this, but again, in your view, what you think is in the bill and you think it's not going to help in the process of registration all the way to the elections, you can highlight it. What you think is left out and is important to be part of the bill, you can also bring it forward. And that being said, at the end of our engagement, we will also expect every party to send us a position paper as far as the elections bill is concerned. It could be 1 page, 1.5 page, 10 pages. It depends on the information that you think would be relevant to the committee and help the committee in putting up our report for presentation at plenary. That's the addition I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, honorable members, we have on the agenda, inviting the honorable members to put forward their questions or concerns. And then the next agenda item would be to invite political parties, one after each other, to state their observations, concerns. But I think it is neater to allow the political parties to raise their concerns, and then honorable members will come after that.
Indeed.
What do you think?
It's an order.
Those in favor?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we do it that way. May I now invite the political parties to state their observations, concerns, and comments on the bill? Yes, honorable member for...
The question has make enough copies for them. I saw some of them struggling to write the question that you read before. They will make copies available to them.
Oh, okay.
In the interim.
In the meantime, can you arrange for your the questionnaire to be printed copied and distributed. Or what we can we? Can we? Sorry. FPAC is meeting. No, FPAC is not meeting today. DP, no, oh, sorry. Sorry, honorable members of FPAC. Knowing that we are meeting here, I had asked the clerk to send a message on the page, and also the vice president, together with the co-chair of the committee, FPAC PEG, so that they can shift, they push the meeting to around 12:30 to allow us time to at least consult further with the committee here and with the political parties before we join them.
Suleiman, who's going to make
Mr. Jallo, somebody call? Okay, now honorable members, can we help? It's being done. All right, okay. Yes? Honorable Davo?
I want to suggest we follow the right. The members be allowed to ask the prohibition questions. Then later the political party reps can also ask the areas of concern that they feel were not treated. Otherwise, the members may not even have concerns today, because I want to believe that these concerns spotted by the members could equally be concerns of the political party. So let's have the members first to ask their questions. On top of that, if the political parties feel that there are other concerns that are not dealt with, they can also pose those questions.
Actually, the consultation here is with the political parties. It's really with the political parties. I mean, either way, it will be covered, but I just think that it's neater and proper for us to allow them, let them tell us their concerns. Just like we did with the other stakeholders, we allowed them to give us an overview of the bill in terms of the A&C, and then we raise our concerns. Well, and it's a decision, it's not a personal decision, but it is a
I think
decision.
They feel this was the format we took. The public here, this was the format. And then here, the other stakeholders you are talking of, we did not prepare any question for those people. But we have a
maybe it was reduced into writing. Let us also realize that time is of the essence. So let us not waste time on these trivialities. Because whatever happens, at the end of the day, honorable members will have an opportunity to raise concern, but the primary concern here is from political parties. Yes, so this time around, I will overrule. Let's take the concern. Political parties, no honorable. I have overruled them. Please, can we have something? No. To be fair, let's be fair. A decision has already been taken. Yes. Can I start with the political parties on my right hand side here? Pardon? Oh, they are not here. Okay, then we'll start with them. They're here, okay. Daddy, are you representing APRC? Okay, very well. Okay. PCP representing? No. You are?
No, you start here.
Start there, okay, very well. Wherever. The important thing is just to start. Yes. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. My name's Mohammed Kandoro Yafa, once again, representing the Gambia Action Party. Regarding about the elections, I think all in all, the committee will need to applaud the committee on behalf of the party. Because I have gone through, since my arrival this morning, I have gone through a lot of the sections. And then on behalf of the party, it is okay with us. Just that when you go through some of the questions, I was able to capture some from what you have gone through. In the case of the death of the independent candidate, I think it should apply on all sides, the parties and then the independent candidates, all the candidates. So in case there is a death or a person died before the election, we need to recheck that person once again. And then on behalf of the party also, I am suggesting that the voting period to give more time to the electorate to commence from the hour of 8 o'clock in the morning, let's say to 6 o'clock, to give more time to the people. And then the voter compilation also. I think IEC also should help us with that, the political parties, because it will do us good. When everything is compiled, we need to have that at our disposals. From there, the Gambia Action Party will also write a position paper on this issue. We will go to at the committee level to see. But from what I read, I think it is a good work, and then we should see this as a national interest, not on partisan basis. In doing that, we as a country and as a people will go forward. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. I also some representatives of political parties who just came in. Am I right? Am I right? Representatives of political parties who came in for introduction, otherwise we proceed. Okay, let's proceed then. Next, well, I was calling you. Yes, it's just my introduction. Are you representing the political party? Yes, yes. Yes, so can you introduce yourself? We had already done the introduction, you went around.
Okay.
The last concern.
Yes, you are. I'm just being very fair.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
If your party stand is,
Thank you.
If your party stand is, it has to be free. Then you push it out. Said my last concern.
Are you representing your party or you're an observer? No, then no.
He's part of the committee. You should have been seated this way.
He's a member of the committee, yes. This way.
That side is full.
Thank you. Please, can we proceed?
Yes, please, one more. I just want to clarify one thing. My last, on the voter compilation, I think it should be free. On the political parties, yes. This is our suggestion, it should be free. And then it should be at our disposals. Thank you.
Any additional copies? Any proposal on additional copies?
Yes, that will do good.
At a cost?
No, not at a cost.
Basic political parties.
Yes.
1, 3, or 4 copies.
Yes, but still.
Anyway.
All right.
Yes.
No. It's not that?
Yes.
All right. Isn't that?
Next.
No. Okay. To already fuzzy.
Pass the mic.
Honorable Minister, pass it this way, please. How you feel?
Yes. Okay.
Hi, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Joint Committee for inviting us here to share our opinion on a very important document. I was just talking to my colleague here. This is a very important process because this is the document that will guide us through our elections. So every party should attach importance to this. This is very, very important, and it's a very important process. Our views and our opinions need to be heard. So it's important that political parties take this seriously, because anything that goes beyond here, we may not have the opportunity to correct them. So it's important that we effectively participate in this process. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, the first question that was asked, whether IEC should receive donations or gifts, in the context of the Act, what is the definition of a gift and a donation? Then we would be able to know whether even a grant from, say, United Nations Development Program or ECOWAS, or what constitutes a donation or a gift. If we know that, then we would be able to give a sound judgment on whether they should receive a donation or a gift. The second question, which borders on attestation, this is another very important matter. But I think already the provision that we have in the Act, which is Section 13, clearly indicates in the absence of this document, a birth certificate, a Gambian passport, national ID card, an attestation from an alcalo or sefo certifying he or she is a Gambian is sufficient. Because this, I believe, in accordance with the Local Government Act, these are our local authorities on the ground that are given the mandate and responsibility to act on behalf of the general citizenry at that level. So when you have an authority issuing an attestation, we believe should be true and representative. The issue of diaspora voting. Yes, this is another very important matter because the Constitution of the Gambia guarantees every Gambian to participate, either to be elected or to elect. So it's important that we take this into consideration. But of course, this goes at a cost. The resources available at our disposal. Regarding this forthcoming election, what time frame do we have to do the national registration process and allow IEC to go on to register Gambians abroad and allow them to participate in the electoral process. It is important that they participate, but also we need to give consideration what means do we have to do this. The deposit of $500,000, I think this is sufficient. For me, this is sufficient. $500,000 is a lot of money. When somebody pays that and he fails to achieve 40% of the total vote casted, I mean, that means that the person loses $500,000. For me, I believe that is enough. I'm talking on behalf of the NCP. That of an independent, well, as my colleague from GAP said, I think when we apply the rules should apply across the board. What is good for the Ganda is good for the goose. So I think it's important that we apply those rules. Transfer of voters. I think, yes, in certain circumstances, we find ourselves to move our, like myself, I am always registered at Central Badibu. And if I feel, transport going back and forth, I'm now resident in Sanementere. If I want to transfer my vote, would it cost me to transfer my vote? I think that right should be given to me. The mic is gone. I think that right should be given to me to the battery. But I think I'm loud enough. I think that right should be given to voters, but it must be guided. It must be guided to avoid duplication and double registration, which the Act already talked about. So those criteria should be well guided and developed so that the registration would not be duplicated. We also talked about election period, what the past experience has shown is that normally when you close polls by 5, then you still have a long queue. And sometimes in certain circumstances and certain regions, this brings conflicts. Because when IEC officers said, this is the time given to us, so those on the queue, you cannot vote, then obviously that political parties will not accept this. So we give, or we have to go to the act and make it clear that the stopping time, whoever is found on the queue should be given the time to vote. That will suffice. But for us to be able to be on the safe side, we open the polls early as 7 a.m. and close them by 6 p.m. This is what NCP is suggesting. But as suggested by Honorable Speaker, we will put something together and make observation on some of the articles in the act. Like, for instance, I made an observation here, which I need legal people to guide me, because sometimes language may, for instance, you look at section 16, general and supplementary registration, and you look at subsection 4, it says the commission shall not conduct any registration of voters at least 6 months before the date scheduled for any election or referendum. So this, I need some clarification, at least 6 months. And now looking at the time frame that we have before this bill passed, it goes for the ascension by the president and it comes back to become law. What time frame do we have? So I think this is important. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those very useful suggestions. And please,
Madam Chair, may I know whether we are simply supposed to react?
Who is,
Mr. Samsar, Samuel Sar, PDOIS. I would like to know whether we are supposed to react to the issues raised in here. That is a priority question 8, or are we supposed to make any presentation? Pardon?
It's not exhaustive.
Yes, okay.
You are not to limit yourself.
Okay, all right, all right.
What I said during my introduction
All right.
remarks was that a questionnaire was prepared
Yeah.
when the two teams went upstate.
Okay, that's right.
So we just want to share those questionnaires with you.
Okay.
But you are at liberty to raise any concerns
Yes.
as far as the bill is concerned.
Yes.
So don't restrict yourself just to bill.
Yeah.
Be free to raise any other issues. That's why you are being consulted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just
And, Honorable, sorry, your questions were very pertinent. You raised a legal issue. Well, it's not for us to respond to that, but we refer it to the legal-minded people, the Minister of Justice. They will take it up. We will note every little concern that is raised, and it will be adequately addressed. Just by way of information, not just for you, but for all of us, we have our standing orders, and one of the clauses in the standing orders is the mandate and power of this joint committee to recommend amendments as they think fit. And that is why if you have any proposals, it will be discussed, and if there is need for that amendment, it will be incorporated. And that is why we always want to make sure that the Ministry of Justice and the IEC accompany us so that we will have their views on the issues of concern raised by political parties or any other relevant stakeholder or witness. That is why we are expecting the position paper. And it will be for them, for instance, from NCP, not from Honorable Alan.
Aside what we are discussing now, it's not from the individual, it's a perspective from the political party.
Yeah, they are representing political parties. They are not here as individuals.
What I'm saying, I'm saying that, well, I will just for information show you that it is not the individual saying. We are taking it as something coming from the political party.
I think that's very obvious. It's obvious. I mean, he is not here as an individual. He is here representing a political party. So can we proceed?
I am representing a political party, and whatever I say here is the position of PDOIS. Thank you very much. I would like to start by emphasizing that any bill, this election bill, has to be premised on the Constitution. And Section 1, subsection 2 of the Constitution vests sovereignty in the people, and any representative government should derive its authority to govern from the people. And in this regard, Section 26 gives right, of the Constitution, gives right to the people to participate in public affairs, including elections, the right to participate, that means the right to elect and be elected. And to facilitate this, Section 25 makes it a right to form associations, including political parties. And in this regard, to facilitate the exercise of such rights, Section 39 of the Constitution makes it a right for a citizen of the Gambia of sound mind and 18 years or above to vote in an election, presidential, National Assembly, council elections, as well as being entitled to be registered. It's very significant when we go through the bill to relate to these matters. There is the establishment of the IEC in order to be able to facilitate this process. And Section 60 deals with political parties in order to be able to do these matters. Now going to the bill itself, because occasionally there will be reference to the Constitution. When we go to the bill itself, and I'll start with the schedule. Schedule 1 is supposed to be premised on clauses 2 and 4. Schedule 1. I don't know whether you are with me. That's page 84. The fourth schedule.
The first schedule is at the bottom of, it starts from the bottom of 83.
Yes, okay.
So going to 84.
Yes. It says it's supposed to be premised on sections 2 and 4. But if you look at clause 4, that is not the case. It's dealing with a different matter. It appears to be clause 10. So it's important we take note of that. Yeah, Michael, yes. Schedule 5. Reference is clause or section 104, subsection 9. That's what it says. But that doesn't exist. 104 stops at subsection 5. I don't know whether you agree. Fifth schedule, page 118. Yes. Page 118. Yes. Rules published as subsidiary legislation. Schedule 6, which is dealing with referendum, specifies the draft constitution, and it should actually really, in our own opinion, deal with referendum generally, rather than this specific draft constitution which was actually being tabled and rejected. It should deal with referendum generally. Now, if we go to the bill itself, the definition, let's say section 2, interpretation. Political party, page 7. Where it says political party means an association of Gambian citizens organized to acquire and exercise political power and registered as such in accordance with this act. I think that is grossly inadequate because I didn't get into politics just merely to seek for political power and maybe become otherwise. It has to take into consideration maybe section 103A of the current Elections Act. If one goes through that, one will be able to utilize part of it to include it in the definition as it goes over. That's Act number 7 of 2001.
Sorry to interrupt you. Maybe you could have a proposed draft?
Yes, will. Yes.
Have a look at it and also
Yes.
include it in your position.
Position, yes, we'll do that. Thank you very much. Yes.
Where it says political power, then can you explain to us what you understand by the term political power?
No, can you allow me to continue?
First, we will have an opportunity to ask questions. Now we're engaging them, we're taking their concerns. Just let's note these things, and then when it is our turn to ask questions, then we will ask the relevant questions. Thank you.
There is also a definition here dealing with coalition. Maybe it's section 91 or something, or clause 91. I believe there should be clarification on what is meant by coalition. Are we referring to a merger? Are we referring to an alliance? There is need to be explicit in the definition. It only says coalition, and if we leave it like that, it can be open to different interpretations. It's 105, okay. Furthermore, clause 4, conducting the nomination and election of candidates for the that's in clause 4 sub clause 2, conducting the nomination and election of candidates for the office of president, member of the National Assembly, mayor, etc., etc. The speaker is not included in this list, and our proposal is that the speaker should be included. Because in the Constitution, there is reference that this IEC is involved in the conduct of the election of the Speaker of the National Assembly. So the Speaker should be included in this. So clause 5 is referring to serious misconduct. Serious misconduct. In that's 3. Serious misconduct. B is talking about serious misconduct. D is referring to serious violation of any other law. One doesn't know what serious misconduct is. You know, when is a misconduct serious? So there is need to be more explicit in this case to avoid any misinterpretation. And there is also reference to, that's in 4, where it talks about a medical board. That's understandable because there is infirmity of body or mind. But also there is talk of violation of the Constitution. There is talk of misconduct. So there will be need also, in addition to the medical board, a judicial tribunal, which can also play a role similar to that of the medical board. Clause 7. Definition of election officer is actually needed because one doesn't know, this is talking about appointments, that there is need to publish it in the Gazette, and if there are objections, they will be taken into account and there will be a review, and eventually a decision will be taken. But one doesn't know the scope of elections officers. It's defined, of course, in the interpretation, section 2 of clause 2, but does it cover like drivers, cleaners, etc.? So those things need to be taken into consideration as to what election officer actually means. It has to be explicit. Funds, well, the sovereignty of the Gambia is actually crucial. That's section in clause 9, which is dealing with funds. The sovereignty of the Gambia is actually crucial, and care must be taken as to when such funds, if at all, that is permissible, should be taken, because we should not actually sell our sovereignty because we actually need money in order to conduct elections. And it should, where it's talking about the different aspects, it should also include the disposal, the assets which have actually been disposed. All right. Clause 10. This one, the first one has gone to the extent of usurping the power of the Election Boundaries Commission, which is indicated in section 50 of the existing constitution. And that's why I was saying it's good that the bill be premised on the constitution. So this needs amendment to bring it in line with section 650 of the constitution, because that one is talking about an electoral boundaries commission, although it says under certain circumstances where the commission has not yet been established, the IEC can carry out demarcation of boundaries. But IEC cannot really just take it as its responsibility, because it's not its responsibility to do that work. So therefore this section should be rephrased to bring it in line with that proposal. Okay, and there seems to be a contradiction here with the registration of voters. What is actually required? That's clause 13, page 13. Clause 13, page 13. 4 items have been mentioned, and these 4 items are found in the Elections Act as amended. But if you go to Schedule 3, it includes 5 elders. So 5 items have been listed there, and the additional item is related to the elders. Our proposal is, let us stick to section 2, rather in clause 13 as it is, and that form in schedule 3, which includes 5 elders, that talk of 5 elders should be actually deleted. As a colleague said here, you have the local authorities who deal with these matters, and let's leave out others so that they do not influence the process of registration. Clause 15. I referred to clause 15, page 14. I earlier referred to section 39 of the Constitution. And clause 15 can only stand if section 39 of the Constitution is amended. So since section 39 of the Constitution subsists, then A of clause 15 has to be deleted. C, it's on page 14. C, because here it is saying serving a sentence of imprisonment. The Constitution does not make any restriction. It's saying if you are a Gambian of sound mind and you have 18 years, you have a right to vote. So we cannot come here and include this and say, well, if you are serving a sentence, that will be in violation of the Constitution. The Constitution wants every Gambian to exercise its right to vote, to determine the future of the country, to determine how the country is run. And nobody should be deprived of that, whether you're living in this country or you are abroad. Whether you are born in the Gambia or you are born abroad. So long as you're a Gambian, the Constitution says you have a right to vote. And you are entitled to be registered in a constituency. So A and C should go, and B adjudged to be of unsound mind, full stop. The rest should go. Whether detained in a mental health. It doesn't say so. Adjudged to be of unsound mind, that is there in section 39 of the Constitution, so that can stay. If we go further, let's move on to 32. 32. Okay. Now 32, all right, before we go on to 32, in 16, he made a reference to that, in fact. That is, it said here, 16, let's still page 14. It's saying in 16, subsection 4, the Commission shall not conduct any registration of voters at least 6 months before the date scheduled for any election or referendum. Now, whether this should still stand as it is this time, we have to look at it very seriously, because registration will not be complete until the 11th of July. And that's less than 6 months before the presidential election. So that will, if we are to proceed with the election, that will create a problem, it will create a crisis. So this has to be reviewed. You know, either the timeline is reduced, or at least for the time being, it is not made part of this bill. That needs to be considered very seriously. And we should not, when we say 6 months, registration ends after 6 months, there are also other processes that take place. Appeals, objections. The revising court has to decide. It may go, there may be appeal to the High Court. So all these processes are in line, and it may take a longer time. It may be an additional month or more. So we have to consider all those things. And this matter, the best thing to do is to forget about it for the time being, and it can be looked into later. Because I will not suggest that we postpone. We are not suggesting that the presidential election be postponed. Rather, we deal with this issue, maintain the same date as in the IEC calendar, and then move forward. Yes, there is also talk about continuous registration. What that means is not too clear to us. Still 16, it's still in 16. Continuous registration is referred to. So what that actually means is not clear. There is also talk of registration centers and registration, no, not registration, polling centers and polling stations. That area is a bit murky. It's not too clear as to what polling centers are and what polling stations are. And there is interchange, continuous use. I can't remember which clause, but it's there. So that needs to be reviewed and then become more explicit for us to understand and know what we are required to do. Let's go now to 32, 33. Objections. Now the registration is complete, and people may object to certain names being on the register of voters. And this is significant that the fees to be charged is left with the IECs. The IEC, who by regulation should indicate what the fees should be. So it's not specified. Our view is that the fee charge should be reasonable so that you don't make it, so that it becomes affordable for anybody who is objecting. Suppose you have about 100 people who have been wrongly registered. So if the fee is high, it will be forbidden for that person who has a genuine case to object to those 100 people. So the fee must be made reasonable and that should be included in the section so that we do not give the IEC that much latitude just to charge any fee. Okay, now if we look at 17 and 40, if we compare the two, 17 and 14, the arithmetic doesn't seem to work. 17 and 14. 17.1. At any time before a general election, a registered voter who is resident in an electoral division other than that in which he or she is registered for not less than 2 months may apply to the returning officer of the where he or she is resident for his or her name to be entered or transferred. No, that's not the one. It must be 2. Okay, any application under subsection 1 shall be made not less than 21 days before the last day of nomination. 21 days before the last day of nomination. To the constituency where the applicant is resident, where the application relates to nomination, or made not less than 90 days, 90 days before election. And notices for election come, this one, if you go to 40, this is 90 days. Let's go to 40, you see. 40 is saying, that's 2. The notice referred to in subsection 1, that is notice of an election, shall state the date, which shall not be less than 30 days after the publication of the notice and the place of nomination of candidates, the date on which or the dates between which as may be appropriate. No. So here you're talking about 30 days. If you add it to the notice for nomination, it's less than 90. So that needs to be, the arithmetic anyway doesn't seem to work out. 43. 43, our position is that the deposits which were agreed upon by the National Assembly in 2018 when they amended the 2016 elections, amended the Elections Act. So they simply returned to the previous fees. That is $10,000 for a presidential candidate, $5,000 for a National Assembly candidate, $2,500 for a mayoral candidate, and $1,250 for candidate for council. So our position is that these fees should be maintained. Fees for elections should not be forbidden to candidates, and they are quite reasonable, and they should be left as they are in the Act. That's what exists in the Elections Act, and that our recommendation is that that is what we should go by. Let's go to 51. 51, what subsection? It's dealing with the withdrawal of candidature. Well, it's saying 3 months, not later than 3 months before the date. Oh, well, let me read the whole thing. A candidate may withdraw from his or her candidature by notice in writing, signed by him or her, and delivered by himself or herself, or one of the persons nominating him or her to the returning officer, not later than 3 months before the date of election. Here too the arithmetic does not work. Our proposal is 7 days. 7 days before the date of election. Because we are talking about nomination being between the date between nomination and election being 21 days, at most minimum 6 days. So if you have 3 months, that's outside even nomination. So how can you talk about withdrawal? Our proposal is it should be 7 days, and we further propose that the date between nomination and election be 1 month to give political parties adequate time to campaign. We go on to 55. Well, I've also already dealt with that. There's polling centers and polling stations. 60. All right. We have decided to be a little bit innovative. We don't know whether that's acceptable, but rather than merely polling agents, we can have polling supervisors. Polling supervisors in cases where candidates do not have adequate polling agents to cover all places, or even where they have adequate polling agents to cover all polling stations. Sometimes you do have failure in terms of appearance. So our proposal is to include, of course, all these things, as Madam Chair was is proposing, is that we should have a position paper. That will be done and it will be included there. Our proposal is to have a polling supervisor who will be allowed at the polling station and can replace a polling agent who has failed to appear. So that's food for thought. We go on to 65. Our proposal regarding the time of opening and closure of polls is that so long as it's a public holiday, we don't have problem with the time. It can still be maintained between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. But if it is not going to be a public holiday, and there is nothing in the bill here suggesting that elections should be the day of election should be a public holiday. Nothing suggests that here. So we are working on the good faith or the goodwill of the executive, deciding whether to declare a public holiday or not. It's a practice which has been going on. So, but if it is, our view is that so long as it's a public holiday, in which case it should be included in the bill, then between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. is okay. Otherwise, we suggest 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This will give time to people who have gone to work to come and vote when they close from work, or those who close late from work to rush to the polling station at 7 a.m. and vote before going to work. We must really work from the principle, because when I was not trying to be idle when I quoted that sovereignty resides on the people, and the people have the right to vote and participate in elections. These are rights. They are sovereign, and government derive their authority from the sovereignty of the people. So in that case, we should always ensure that citizens' right to vote is protected. We should endeavor to see that every citizen has the opportunity to go and vote, and there should be no stumbling block. And this is why we are totally opposed to postponing the registration of Gambians living abroad. We are totally opposed to the registration, rather postponement of registration of Gambians living abroad. The IEC, the government should endeavor to ensure that the funds are provided, and that, for example, there is $54 million by National Assembly members. Maybe they can consider forgetting that, to ensure that that amount which is available can be utilized for that particular purpose. But the issue is that all those concerned should endeavor that the Gambians, our fellow Gambians abroad, in the diaspora, are not deprived of their right to vote. All these years, they have been deprived of their right to vote. It was in the 1997 Constitution. It was there just like that. And nothing was done to ensure that they voted. Now, they supported change. And they were hoping that this time they will be able to exercise their right to vote. So we should endeavor, the bill should, there's nothing, I think the question is right. Should they be given the right to vote? It's there in the Constitution. It says you have the right to vote. So that's not the right question. It's what is going to be done to ensure that they exercise their right to vote. That's the correct question. And I hope efforts will be made by both the IEC and the government to ensure that Gambians abroad who contribute $187 million annually to the coffers of relatives, etc., in the Gambia should be given that right. They should not be deprived that right. We've gone to 66. Yes?
Sorry, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
There's a vehicle registration number VJL 1492. Can you wanna just move it so that the vehicle can move? VJL 1492. Thank you. Yes, Honorable.
Yes.
I want to observe if we can have time for participation. At least the opportunity to have
yes.
If there is a time, then we fast track.
Yes. That's a proposal. Are you going clause by clause? If we're to,
well, you can give me time, whatever this is, I go by that.
do we allocate time? As was said, and we all know, this is a very important engagement, and every what is it called, proposal, suggestion matters. So, Honorable Sise, what do you say?
We should do it at this time. Already, the gentleman has taken a lot of time. Maybe we have others are coming.
Let us weigh it. The two gentlemen who spoke previously really did not take that long. I think they took less than 15-20 minutes. So we can, let's just try to summarize where you can.
Okay, yes, thank you. Very quickly, maybe I'll try and finish within 10 minutes. Yes, so 86. Yes, no, 66 is a technical, it's not practical. That's signing of the voter's card that the presiding officer should. It's not practical because of the nature of the card. So the presiding officer cannot sign. Yes, 86, that's what I was saying. I'm skipping some, but 82 is talking about transmission. This is very important to us. 82, that's transmission of a result. First, we are of the opinion that every polling agent should be given a copy of the result. And then secondly, also, the transmission of the result, with the development of technology, we believe that every candidate can be given the results, say, through WhatsApp. For example, that's transmission. You transmit the same result to the headquarters, but ensure that every candidate gets the result through WhatsApp. So WhatsApp numbers can be taken before the polling, and then the candidates will get it. And we go on then, very quickly. Okay, section of clause 92D. 92D. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Fine. 92D. So it doesn't have D. We are the ones proposing D. No, 92. 92, which is dealing with prohibitions during election campaign. Okay. Yes. Our proposal that it should include civil servants who by virtue of their position are using their position to support political parties. That is, they use their position to support political parties. So that should be D, so that is prohibited. So 93.1, it should be, okay, we can include that in the 102. Yes, 102 is significant. It's talking, that's the one which is dealing with referendum. Referendum, no, it's not 102, it's 131. 131. Yes, referendum question and notice of referendum. Section 102 of the Constitution makes provision for referendum. That means if at all the members of the National Assembly are dealing with an issue, a bill is brought and an issue arises, the members of the National Assembly can propose a referendum, and the Speaker is involved in the process. Otherwise, it's through amendment of the Constitution itself, which is provided in section 226. So, section 131 does not speak the language of the Constitution, and therefore it needs to be reviewed to bring it in line with the Constitution. And the same applies to 140. It says the result of the referendum shall be determined by a simple majority. Again, this does not speak the language of the Constitution. If you go to section 226, it's saying something different. So that too needs to be reviewed to bring it in line with the Constitution. 142, finally. Referendum may be of interest to civil society. And we feel that polling agents can include the IPC and the CSO. The IEC cannot be a polling agent. We're saying IEC appoints polling agents. We feel that is inappropriate. The IEC conducting elections and appointing its own polling agents, no. So we can leave that to the IPC and civil society. I think there is something like the coalition of civil society on matters related to election. Thank you very much. Thanks for the patience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As for our party, we would love to be given more time so that we can talk with our party members and executives so that we write to you people our position paper and give it to you as of the date you would require. Thank you very much. Our party is Gambia Party for Democracy and Progress. Thank you. As per the time given by the committee.
Thank you very much. I want to also say let's avoid asking direct questions. Let's put our questions through the chair. If you want to share any concern, please take permission from the chair so that it's orderly. So we've had you, GPDP. All we want to say is the sooner you do it, the better. Precisely if you can get it here against Friday, because the consultation is going on, and we hope to wrap up the consultation by Friday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am Amaduka from the Gambia Democratic Congress. And in regards to the bill, I will try as much as possible, again, to save time. And then on section 9, 1C, we talks about the funds, estimates, accounts, and audits. The funds of the Commission shall consist of monies appropriated to it by the National Assembly, fees and charges levied by the Commission, and C, which of a great interest to us, such grants or donation as may be made to it, provided it does not compromise the impartiality or independence of the Commission. In that case, the issue of impartiality, what is going to be regarded as being impartial, who's going to determine that, and so on, is very key. So I believe we as a party, there is nothing that is more sacred than our electoral process. And then I think, and so we as a party believe that the funding of the IEC should stop, on monies appropriated by the National Assembly, and then fees and charges levied by the Commission, and not grants or donation from third parties. On page 13, section 14, we talks about the registration of Gambians living abroad. We just have a similar opinion with that of the previous speakers. that the Gambians that are abroad are citizens granted the right to vote by the Constitution of the Gambia. So we must endeavor through the IEC and government to make sure that that right is given to them. It shouldn't be questioned in any way. So they should vote, and then whatever that must be done to facilitate that to happen, because they participate in the electoral process, they participate in every act, every bits and pieces of the electoral campaign and all of that, and they contribute heavily to our development as a nation. So therefore, they should be given the right, the due to vote, especially in these coming elections. And thirdly, that's section 37, page 25, 2B, which talks about provision of master register and master supplementary register to all political parties in soft copies. Yes, the IEC is supposed to provide that to all political parties. And when it comes to the issue of the hard copy, at least one, the IEC must prepare and hand over to political parties without any cost to political parties. Because it is important that both the hard and soft copy come from the IEC, and then the hard copy be stamped and authenticated by the IEC and to be handed over to political parties, because the document is going to be very important to political parties, in our respective work in our offices. So therefore, at least a copy should be provided by the IEC, a hard copy, which is going to be free to political parties, but we should not have to pay for that one. In case political parties need supplementary hard copies, then political parties can take the burden of that cost. But at least one should be handed to political parties by the IEC and authenticated by the IEC. Also, on page section 44, that's page 30, return and forfeiture of deposit. A deposit paid in accordance with section 43 shall be returned to the candidate if, when you come to D, in a contested election in relation to the election of a president, he or she obtains at least 40% of the valid votes. Under normal circumstances, such percentage should possibly be higher than the number of votes the person need to win the election. The situation we have in place, somebody can win election by 20% of the votes casted. So why would we require that person or that political party also? We should have a situation where we are asking the people to actually need to have number of votes that are higher than the possible votes that they can have to win the elections. So I think that needs to be revisited and reduced as much as possible. Probably we may say not all funds can be returned to political parties, but we can talk about maybe 15% or 20% at most. But there is a possibility that a political party can win the election, the president election, with 20% of the votes casted, and then we're asking that to get a refund of their funds need to have 40% of the total votes cast. So I think that's the add up with us as well. So that needs to be reviewed and reduced significantly so that we will leave a gap, at least that there is a possibility that the number of votes that candidates are going to have to win the election is higher than this percentage we're talking about, that to get their deposit back. Yes, and then on section, let's do this right now. Yes, section 54, death of a candidate. If after the date appointed for the receipt of nomination, one of the candidates nominated for election to an office dies before the poll has commenced, the returning officer shall notify the fact of the death to the commission, which shall cause a fresh notice to be published in accordance with the section 40. in respect of the electoral division affected by the death, provided that the death occurs within that period, yeah. Postpone the holding of election in respect of the electoral division affected by the death if the death occurs outside the period stipulated in section 51. So we talk about the death of independent candidate. I think it should apply the same way, should apply to both independent candidates. But my issue here is, it is important. We can have, in a situation where we have two, like in a second round of voting, we have two people going in for elections. And then, unfortunately, one happened to die within that period. I think the people should deserve the right to maybe for elections to hold. I'm just trying to say we must as much as possible to avoid electing people by default. So in a situation where everybody is significant, when one of the contestants dies before elections, I think that should warrant the election to be postponed, being a party candidate or an independent candidate. Or at least investigations need to be taken up to see and to establish the reasons or what might have caused the death of that person. So that is something that we need to consider also again. And when it comes to the publication of results, the chairperson or the vice chairperson shall be the returning officer to announce the results of election, and in their absence, the commission shall use its discretion to choose a returning officer. I think we as a party believe it should be incumbent upon the chairman of the IEC to declare election results. And then in the case of incapacity of that chair, then the declaration might be moved to a different body from the IEC, probably the court or the High Court, which maybe, if it is the High Court, appeals can be made to the Supreme Court. But having alternates, with the responsibility to declare in the same office at the IEC may not be ideal with us. So therefore, we may propose as a political party that the chairman of the IEC should be the person with the authority to declare the election results. And then prohibition, that's 92, prohibition during election campaigns. In B, we believe that no political party should be able to use state resources, for political propaganda and purposes. So we're saying that abuse or engage in the improper use. Political parties should not be at liberty to use state resources, being proper or improper. That needs to be revisited, because if there will be a chance for political parties to use state resources, then there should be a provision to provide that same opportunity to all political parties across. So no political parties should be able to use state resources for their electoral process unless otherwise provided, or the similar same opportunity be provided to all political parties. A document that's on, we talk about the third schedule, Form 1, on page 92. When it comes to the issuance of attestation, I think we talked about, the issue of the birth certificate, government personal identity, but a document certified by 5 elders that the applicant is a citizen of the Gambia. I think that is still important, it's still necessary, especially in the local area. Yes, could be some complication maybe in the cities, but also in the local areas, in the very remote areas, it is important that this certification happen. This, I think, will just make people to trust the process more and more. We have seen alcalos and sefos taking part in the political dispensation in this country. And I think, therefore, that being the case, just to be very honest, unfortunately, just 2 days ago, I've witnessed a similar scenario where an alcalo was telling people that they need to avoid going against, the government or so. So that being the case, it is important that we still have or maintain these 5 elders in the process. I think it just makes the process, more trustworthy. So we as a party believe that this can be maintained in the process to the issuance of attestations to citizens. And then finally, we also as a political party will come up with a position paper. And then I would also suggest one other issue, that is the issue of the deposit for presidential candidates that had been revised before. And then if it has to be changed again, then it will raise questions about the significance and the reasons why it was revised not long ago. So asking political parties and then independent candidates to deposit 500,000 to exercise something that is a right is exorbitant. And I think some other way it is putting pressure on political parties and independent candidates, to lobby for funds from, areas or angles that, some may question. So I think it should be maintained to, as it was revised not long ago. 500,000 to be deposited is too much. It's too much. And then also I'll just finally advise, usually the inter-party committee can play a big role, especially when political parties are supposed to engage with the members of the National Assembly. The inter-party committee had a position paper on all of these issues before. It was worked out, taking many days, and then a position paper was made by the inter-party committee that has talked about most of these issues. So it was sent to the respective authorities. I'm not sure of the National Assembly though, but it was sent to the government and the IEC. So, for reference purposes in the future, the inter-party committee can play significantly, because their political parties on all of these issues can have an agreement and understanding and come up with a position paper, and that position paper will represent all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we have GFA?
Yes.
Yes, GFA.